I'm focused on this theory cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost was with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about a legislator in Maine who was censured and denied the right to vote in, I guess, the House because let me make sure she's a state senator or she's a state legislator in Maine. But there was a transgender student who was participating in sports. She made a post about it. She was censured for it because they said this person's a minor, you're drawing attention to them, and she would not apologize for her actions. So she has been silenced and she cannot vote. And so she's seeking help of the Supreme Court to alleviate that issue. But it's amazing. You got another woman who's silenced because she was concerned about women losing their opportunities, and also their safety and other things are jeopardized too with all this transgenderism stuff. But at the very least, their opportunities and their victories are ceded to these men who participate. So we'll be talking about that. There is a funny kind of story evolving with David Hogg, but I think I might have to table it. He compared himself to Ulysses Grant. David Hogg is has a leadership position in the DNC. He's been a very vocal activist for a couple years now, but comparing yourself to Ulysses Grant is rather bold, just too bold for my taste. But I remember the thing I will never let go of David Hogg was he was one of those people who was questioning Trump and the coyotes bringing children over the border. And he was one of those people who are like, how is that possible? We're talking about animals. So not the brightest bulb, but he did launch a fake pillow company to compete with like My Pillow, and it didn't really go anywhere. But hey, he's somebody they've allowed to fail upwards because he's young and he's passionate. And one of these days, people who are passionate are also going to be competent. But we don't know. We maybe the Democrats won't get there. Maybe they won't get there. Also, there's this report on the abortion pill that I'd like to get to, and there was another story that I want to get to if there is time. So there's a couple things I want to touch on. The other story, there was more that came to light about the illegal alien who got sent to El Salvador. More information came out with his wife issuing a protective order. And so there's just more information on that. And the Democrats can really, really pick them. Oh boy. But before we jump into everything, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content, website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation on the site because it does cost to stream, run my site, all that good stuff you guys can support. I very much do appreciate it. Appreciate you guys. You guys can check out different merch that's available on my site as well, different t-shirts and mugs and so on. So I encourage you guys to check that out. And I do encourage you guys to also check out some of my books that I've written. I have 18 published all together. We are in May, so I will be going to Motor City Comic Con this month. It's the 16th, 17th, and 18th in Novi, Michigan at the Suburban Showplace. And I will be in Artist Alley at table I3, and my sister will be in I4. And so I'll be selling my books. I'll have books that I'll have signed that people can purchase and so on. And if you guys want to check out some of my sister's artwork, my sister, she has all these little teeny tiny paintings. I know some of you follow her and watch her when she goes live, but she did do my artwork for my cover. Of course, God is blatantly against abortion. So she's a very talented young woman. She also takes commissions for those of you interested in anything. She does more than mini paintings. A lot of times when you guys watch her, she does little mini paintings, but she can paint normal size things, even big things, if the occasion calls for it. I am getting ready for all that. I have to order some of my books and stuff. I have one right here. Well, I guess it's got some water damage, so I'm not going to sell this one, but yeah, I got lots of books. So, I'll let you guys know. When is it? I don't know. I'll try to let you guys know next week how much time I'm going to take off for it, because I definitely won't be streaming on Thursday and Friday, because I'll be setting up on Thursday and Friday is the show, and I will be there all day, so I obviously can't stream. So I'll let you guys know. I don't need the whole week off or anything like that, but I don't know, maybe I should take some time. I haven't done that in a minute, but maybe just write, prepare, and other stuff. I don't know. I'll think about it. Audiobooks when? That's a good question. I did actually record an audiobook for Super Kid, and well, I had started recording it at my and I worked on it with my cousin, but we didn't. I just need to redo it. I need to redo it. One of the reasons why my sister got me this mic is so I could do some really nice audio stuff. So I just need to sit down and record. Some of the books I'm not at the place where I could hire some really good professionals for some of the things. Some of the things I don't want to personally record. In my mind, I'm like, there's different accents. Like my Anubis book, well, the main character is a guy, and I guess I wouldn't mind reading for a guy, but his love interest has a British accent, and I can do a decent one, but not one that is not gonna get me like ratioed in reviews on Audible. So there's only so many that I think I could personally record. So I could do Super Kid, I could do my nonfiction stuff, I guess. I could do, I don't know, maybe I could do some of my Queen books and things. But I don't know if I want to tackle the curse stuff. I could probably do the Almost Alive stuff, maybe. I guess. I don't know. The new task I need to get on. Thank you for asking. But not yet. I do like audiobooks though. Some people don't like ebooks. They just like to get the actual book, and they like to smell the pages and things. I like I do like, I guess I like all the mediums myself. Because there's things you highlight and flip through real quick and search through the Kindle stuff, but and I like to like drive and listen to audiobooks, but I do like to have a physical book that I can just kind of go back to as well. So there's things on Audible that I'm still going to go back and probably buy physical copies of, and then highlight and take notes and so on. So I'll get to it rather sooner rather than later, hopefully. And someone said I should do the easy stuff first. I've probably redoing Super Kid is probably like the easiest thing. Super Kid and Super Kid 2. And Slayer Fear. Maybe I should work on that, because that's actually inspired. Well, I got the idea off of Star Wars, I guess, a little bit, and COVID. Because if you haven't read Slayer Fear, How to Overcome a Spirit of Fear, I wrote it during the time of the pandemic, because people had lost their minds. And I thought about the Star Wars quote about how fear is a path to the dark side. Like fear leads to anger leads to hate leads to suffering. And I just saw so much of that during COVID. And people were just became so nasty and mean and cruel, and just based off of their fear, and how people could be controlled and used because of their fear, how it was weaponized by the government. and different organizations and so on. So my book isn't specifically about COVID. It's about overcoming fear in general, from a spiritual perspective. But I'm like, this is a timely thing, so let me go ahead and pop that out. So that's one of my books that I have. So Sunday is actually Star Wars Day. So you corny preachers out there who like to incorporate nerd stuff, I bet you are all preparing for your Jedi themed sermons on Sunday. Um, we all were into Star Wars a bit, but my brother's not that deep into it, so he did buy some lightsabers, so maybe there'll be an analogy. I certainly don't expect a whole theme sermon. Anyway, if I don't start reading these stories, we will not have any time. So first thing I want to address is the headlining topic. There was a legislator who was censured. I'm going to go ahead and read the CBS article that I've already read through earlier. Maine state lawmaker censured for Facebook post on transgender athlete asks Supreme Court to intervene. Washington, a member of Maine's House of Representatives is asking the Supreme Court for an emergency relief after she was censured for criticizing the state for allowing transgender athletes at public high schools to participate in girls' sports. Laura Libby, a Republican who represents her state house district, it's state house. I think I said state house earlier, asked the high court to issue an injunction that would require the chamber's clerk to count her votes. She argued that her constituents are being disenfranchised as a result of the punishment imposed on her for refusing to apologize after she was censured by the state house in a party line vote last month. Without emergency relief from this court, Maine House District 90's residents are without equal representation for the rest of their chosen legislator's term. Lawyers for Libby wrote in their emergency appeal to the Supreme Court. They said that the sanctions imposed by Maine's House Speaker leave her constituents without a voice or a vote for every bill coming to the House floor for the rest of her elected term, which runs through 2026. Libby was first elected to the state legislature in 2020. The dispute stems from a post Libby shared to Facebook in February that called attention to a transgender athlete who placed first in the girls' pole vault at the state's track and field championship. In Maine, transgender students are eligible to participate in athletics in accordance with their gender identity, which is dumb. The Justice Department filed a civil lawsuit against Maine's Department of Education earlier this month over its policy, which says discriminates against women in violation of Title IX. What's the point of having Title IX, guys? The lawsuit came after President Trump signed an executive order in February barring transgender girls and women from competing on sports teams that align with their gender identity. In response to Libby's post, which included photos and the name of the athlete, a minor, the Maine House voted 75-70 to censure her. The censure resolution stated that Libby refused to remove her post after she was warned it may endanger the athlete and said it is a basic tenet of politics and good moral character that children should not be targeted by adult politicians, especially when the targeting could result in serious harm. The resolution also directed Libby to accept full responsibility for the incident and publicly apologize to the House and to the people of the state of Maine. Libby, it concluded, must comport herself in a manner that pursues the highest standards of legislative conduct. After the censure resolution was approved, Libby was brought to the well of the House chamber and directed to apologize. When she refused to do so, the Speaker found her in violation of a Maine House rule that prohibits a member guilty of a violation of the legislature's rules and orders from voting or speaking until the member has made satisfaction. Since then, roll call votes denote a Z for Libby's district. Her lawyers have said her seat has not had a vote on the state's budget or on bills Libby sponsored herself. There's more. We'll get to more, but in the article, but they wanted her to go through this simulation ritual for like the wrong sort of groupthink. It's so insane. I can understand the argument for, hey, we want to protect minors and you posting and etc. blah blah blah, and shouldn't be drawing attention. And usually minors and kids and stuff are, you would just think naturally, obviously off limits or whatever. But at the same time, you are drawing attention to a policy issue where they are in violation according to, if you're looking at the executive order or whatever, how we're reading Title IX right now, into if you're going off of that, and them not protecting girls in their field of sports, because if we're not going to keep these sections separate with the girls and the boys, okay, let's not even bother with the different distinctions and let everybody compete and let the boys just decimate everybody. Okay, but we do have these separate categories because we want women to have more opportunities. So when you allow men who identify as women, because their gender identity, to compete against the women, you are just creating less opportunities for women, which is what Title IX is one of the things it's supposed to do. So you have that lawsuit going on right now. But this isn't, because they're like, oh, she posted a photo and people could see the name of the school and so on. This is a state championship. It's not like she doxed someone and some it's not like she doxed a child on some online chat group playing Fortnite or something. This is a young man who's competing against other women for a state championship. So drawing attention to someone who did something in the public for a state championship, I don't think that's really worth censuring her over. But if you're just going to censure her, wave the finger, that's one thing. But you're saying she can't vote and her district is going without representation until she apologizes and says she's sorry, just lies in front of everybody? What if she's not sorry? And why should she be sorry? She wants a policy change. I would want a policy change. I do want a policy change. I'm sure women who are losing their opportunities want a policy change. And by the way, I very much appreciate Donald Trump's executive orders, but we do at some point need some legislative bills to be passed. We need something somewhere. We shouldn't have to have different legislation that's like, by the way, a boy's a boy, a girl's a girl. Thank God for Europe in the decision that they just had in their courts, which people are still mad about it, and I guess will continue to be mad. But I'm glad that they're, on a positive trajectory regarding that issue. But she wouldn't properly comply with the humiliation ritual. Have you guys ever seen Game of Thrones? Even if you haven't seen Game of Thrones, you've probably seen like a scene of like a woman walking through the streets with short hair, and she's naked, and there's like, they have a bell, and there's and someone is ringing the bell, and they're going, shame, shame, shame. That's what I'm like kind of getting in my head for, like, what they want to do. Like, you guys remember when the Babylon Bee was banned off of Twitter? They weren't banned off of Twitter. They locked their account. They locked their account for posting that Rachel Levine won Man of the Year. Their satire site or whatever, they said that he won Man of the Year. And he is a man. But he, of course, he identifies as a woman, and the Biden administration, a bunch of folks decided to pretend and go along with him being a woman. So X, which was still Twitter at the time, locked them out of their account. And they deemed what they posted to be hate speech or whatever, but they wouldn't delete it themselves. Twitter was telling the Babylon Bee that they have to delete it. And if they delete it, they can get their functionality back. Now, they talked it over and they're like, no, we're not deleting it because this is a true thing. And that one event, that one event inspired Elon Musk to go ahead and buy Twitter and turn it into X or whatever, and probably also led a trajectory to him also supporting Trump and Trump even, winning the presidency and all kinds of different stuff. So that was a massive canon event, in the world of politics, that the watcher might have been in the background at that moment for the person who decided to lock Babylon B out of their account. Very fascinating stuff. But to me, it was always interesting that if Twitter didn't like it and it violated their guidelines or whatever, why not just delete the post and allow them, after it's gone, to go about their business? If I was on TikTok and I violated that was against the community guidelines, they would just the video itself would just be black. I wouldn't be able to download it. No one else would be able to see it. I wouldn't be able to see it anymore, even if I made the content. If I posted it and they say it goes against community guidelines, it's just a black screen and something that says like you violated community guidelines, and it might tell me which violation. And I mean, it might tell me what violation, and you can appeal it, and maybe your appeal passes or maybe it doesn't. And if it doesn't, there's nothing you can do. There's no like second appeal usually or anything like that. Not naturally, maybe if you know somebody, but that's not how it works. And you can choose to take it down or not take it down, but it'll just, to you, there will always be like that black screen. But you can still keep posting and go on about your life, unless you have like a lot of violations, and then you'll get strikes and won't be able to post. It might be limited, or if it's too many, they might just kick you off. If there's a comment that you made that violates community guidelines, they just remove it. If you appeal it and you're successful, they will restore it. But if it goes against their guidelines, they will remove it. So what I'm getting at is that Twitter itself wanted you to remove it yourself as like further humiliation and the humiliation ritual of like, this is you acknowledging that you did something wrong, as opposed to them deciding that you did something wrong. So I don't know, it's like part of that their philosophy, I suppose. But she wouldn't say sorry, and so now they're not letting her vote. Pretty remarkable. I got a Maine constituent. Someone said the young man has a hugely powerful family. 6 federal judges were recused. That's interesting. I have to dig deeper in the story. Libby and 6 of her constituents filed a lawsuit in federal court to have her vote restored, alleging violations of the Constitution, including the First Amendment. A federal district court declined to provide her with preliminary relief, finding that legislative immunity precluded it because her sanction by Maine's House Speaker was a legislative act, and the disenfranchisement of her district's voters could not overcome that immunity. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the First Circuit also rejected a request to order the clerk to count Lobby's votes. In her request for CBS has a typo. I'm like, her name is a Lobby. Okay. CBS, you got a typo in your article. I'm gonna check that out. In her In her request for the Supreme Court's intervention, Libby's lawyers said the relief they are seeking would restore the status quo of equal representation, bringing the Maine House back into conformity with every other state and Congress. They have asked the High Court to weigh in by May 6, when the House will convene for another floor session or hear oral arguments on her request next month. Without this court's intervention, District 90's residents have no equal protection in the House indefinitely, they said, and there is no political solution for defendants' unconstitutional acts. Libby's lawyers said she remains the representative for District 90 with no constitutional mechanism to restore her vote unless, contrary to our most basic First Amendment freedoms, she recants her views to the speaker's liking. So This is them coming after her for wrongthink and then not apologizing for it. Like, and like, I guess I don't know all the rules or whatever, but it's not a violation of Facebook's guidelines or where she posted on social media. Again, this is a kid who just ran, I mean, just competed on for the state championship. So it's again, it's not like she doxed someone who was like super private. I'm trying to remember what sport it was. Pole vault at the state's track and field championship. So it's the state championship. You're talking about people taking titles and maybe breaking records and all kinds of different things, wiping out the achievements of women, taking away awards from women. And if a woman has something to say about that and voices her opinion online, you could say like, well, she didn't have to post anything specific, didn't have to post a photo. Because I did read the actual censure complaint, and they're like, she posted a photo. She didn't blur out this person. She blurred out other people, but she didn't blur out them. And maybe she wanted folks to be aware that it was a trans person. I don't think it was meant to be malicious and evil as far as like wishing harm on that individual, but this is a grave injustice. A couple weeks ago, we played Gavin Newsom's conversation with Charlie Kirk, and Gavin Newsom admitted that it's unfair. That doesn't mean they're going to do anything about it, but inherently people know that it's unfair to have these men compete with women. That brings me no joy to admit that men are just naturally bigger, stronger, whatever. But it's just the truth. Even in a game like pool, men have advantages, physical advantages. They just do. So we'll see what happens with her, and the Supreme Court takes it up and that she gets any kind of win there. But someone said there are pics from a public newspaper, it's public domain. Someone said women only have a right to an abortion. That seems to be the case. That like the women have the rights, women have rights, women have rights. But when it comes to this particular issue, that's what J.K. Rowling talked about like a week or so ago, because people are mad at her because she was celebrating in the UK a ruling that said that women are women and trans women are not women. And folks were angry, especially because she had an image where she had given money to the group that was fighting this thing in the courts. And so she was smoking on a cigar saying, I love when a plan comes together. And Pedro Pascal was so upset, at her, and other folks were upset with her for celebrating. And she got into a back and forth with quite a few different people. But one of the things that she pointed out is that there are male feminists out here who claim that they are supportive of women's rights, but they're supportive of things that end up supporting them. Like they'll be for abortion. Well, abortion can benefit men if they don't want a child that they'll have to raise, if they don't want to pay child support, they'll say, get rid of that kid. In some cases, there have been men who say, I will pay you to get rid of that kid. Sometimes they'll just threaten or pressure or make the appointment themselves, drive them to the clinics, and they'll say it's for women's liberation. But a lot of activists are well aware that men are liberated also in abortion because they don't have to deal with that responsibility of parenthood. Now, there are plenty of men who are devastated by abortion, who have mourned the loss of their children. I've known men who have nightmares about their children being aborted. So not all men support it, obviously, and plenty of men fight for the right to life, for their children, for other people's children, and justice for them, and so on. But there are men out there who are very selfish, who like have that ace in their pocket in case they ever need their woman, their baby mama, their mistress, that one night stand, that OnlyFans girl. Well, I probably shouldn't have said that. Probably gets flagged a bit. The OF, girl you sleep around with. They want to have that option to say you got to go ahead and get that taken care of. So they'll support that. But when women are saying we want to protect our private spaces, we are concerned about our safety, we're concerned about our privacy, and we want to protect our opportunities, and we don't want men who have a physical advantage to come in and take these opportunities away from us in these different areas of athletics. They're saying, no, trans women are women. So much is seen through the eyes of men and what they want, as opposed to what is fair to women and what they actually need and what's actually just. So that is that's that story as of right now. So good luck to Miss Libby. Good luck to her indeed. Another thing, I saw this clip. Let me just play this clip quickly. Mark Carney, who is the new Prime Minister of Canada, he mentioned that companies that do not actively engage in trying to end climate change are going to be punished. And I guess I'm just warning you at that point, dear Canadians out there, because you picked who you picked, and I don't know how to help you. Right now, you had a good chance, you had a good, conservative candidate, but I have already acknowledged that Trump and his tariff policies and his 51st state stuff definitely affected people's attitudes. But you can't forget the actual people who, yes, supported in what they advocated for. So, I mean, maybe they're fine with this. Maybe this was a calculated risk for them, and they'll deal with the brunt of all this.
Climate change is an existential threat. We all recognize that. There's increasing urgency around that. But the converse of that, the flip side of that, is if you're taking steps, making investments, coming up with new technologies, changing the way you do business, all in service of reducing and eliminating that threat, you're creating value. And what we have seen increasingly, spurred initially by the Sustainable Development Goals, accelerated with Paris, and then through social movements and others and governments acting, is society is putting tremendous value on achieving net zero. So the companies and those who invest in them and lend to them, who are part of the solution, will be rewarded. But those who are lagging behind and are still part of the problem will be punished. Climate change
will be punished. Yikes. Good luck out there. I mean, I can understand if they wanted to give subsidies and other things to companies who they deemed were making positive change or whatever, tax breaks and whatnot, things like that. But to openly say companies who do not oblige to your different demands and requests, it's pretty messed up. It's pretty messed up, man. It is pretty messed up. But good luck to the Canadians out there. Good luck. Okay, so next story I want to cover, there was a report on the abortion pill that came out that I want to cover. Breitbart is reporting this. Exclusive shocking data suggest abortion pill complications 22 times higher than previously reported. FDA must reinstate stronger safeguards. It says breaking And I'm not surprised at all at this news. I'm not. Just, a pill that's designed to kill your children, being pushed by people who obviously benefit from pushing the pill that kills your children. I'm just not surprised that it's more dangerous than people want to admit. While the abortion pill is touted as safe and effective, shocking new data suggests complications are 22 times higher than previously reported. A study from the Ethics and Public Policy Center released on Monday found that 10.93% of women who had mifepristone abortions, the first drug used in a 2-drug medication abortion regimen, experienced severe complications, including sepsis, infection, hemorrhaging, or other serious adverse event within 45 days following the abortion. This percentage is significantly higher than the less than 0.5% in clinical trials reported on the FDA-approved drug label. That's interesting. Very interesting. Indeed. So the majority of abortions are done by the abortion pill. They're done early and they're done by the pill. And Donald Trump, when he decided to, he's probably kind of always had the inclination that maybe like he's around 15 weeks or something as far as what he personally feels, but he decided to completely say it's states' rights issue, states' rights issue, states' rights issue. For those of you out there who are like, it's always been a states' rights issue. That was not the position on the Republican platform. It was not the position on the Republican platform in 2016 either when he first ran, and they didn't change the platform in 2020. So they did this recent change and they changed the platform. I covered how they really bullied and silenced pro-life people who didn't like the changes. They rammed different stuff through to make a more pro-choice stance, because he wanted that to not be an election issue. So something that he could actually greatly impact the amount of abortions is that if they do something about the pill. Because again, that is like the number one way that abortions take place. There's so many in circulation. They'll still happen, I guess, one way or another. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do something to stop it, because it'll definitely stop more in the future happening. But you got to take other legal steps. But, stopping that pill could greatly save a lot of lives. And if it's way more deadly and dangerous than what people expect. And by the way, there's videos all the time of, different pro-choice people who've had the abortion pill. And it's always interesting when I see videos like this and they'll say, I'm going to tell the truth because pro-lifers don't understand this. And I want people to understand. I want more transparency. And then they'll start talking about how awful a chemical abortion pill, abortion is. And all the pro-lifers are like, we're very well aware of how terrible and awful it is, like physically on the woman, and then what it also does to the baby. Like we are aware, and we're trying to spread awareness. So it's always interesting when they act like we don't know what it does. And it's also interesting when they attack each other when they're open about what happens in these different abortions. There's this one woman named Chelsea Hart. She was a comedian. I don't know her outside of TikTok. I don't know if she's done anything on TikTok. She hasn't been in my algorithm for a long time. But she ended up revealing that she had an abortion. Now, people were mad because she had first referenced something that sounded like she was talking about a miscarriage, and then she gave more details. And then people were like, how dare you make people think that you had a miscarriage when you had an abortion? And even people who were pro-choice were mad at her because they're like, there's a difference. I'm like, there is a difference, but you still support abortion. It was a lot of emotions from different people. And she talked about how terrible it was when she took the pill, and she it was really painful, and she ended up like passing out from in a puddle of sweat. And she talked about how terrible it was to see the corpse of the baby, and that it came out in pieces as well. People don't think about it being, well, I don't know, a lot of people think about it being a clump of cells, or just, but and they don't know how much it hurts the woman and what all happens to the baby. Like, even if you ask people to describe like what the pill actually does, people don't, a lot of times don't know, or don't want to know. But essentially you're like suffocating and starving the child, and cutting off its nourishment, cutting off its oxygen, so it will like wither up and die. And then you take the second pill and it causes contractions, and then the baby's body will come out. And you're only supposed to do that up until early on. You're not supposed to do it like later in the pregnancy. It can, one, not be successful. I don't want it to be successful, but there's complications that could emerge from you taking it later. And there's some of these national cases that we've heard of women not getting the proper care, and they try to blame it on pro-life laws when it was really like botched abortions, like Amber Thurman, for example. She had is she the one who had twins? They were mentioning her story a lot. I talked about it quite a bit. I just have a not great memory, but I think she had 2 babies, and she took the abortion pills, and they didn't expel them, and she ended up dying from different complications. But it's just not what a lot of people have in mind. And I've heard so many horrific stories from the pill. The study is the largest known study of the abortion pill, according to the authors, Ethics and Public Policy Center President Ryan T. Anderson, and Director of Data Analysis and Fellow Jamie Bryan Hall. The study is based on analysis of data from all payer insurance claims database that includes 727 prescribed mifepristone abortions from 2017 to 2023, meaning the results of the study are based on real-world incidents. The data was studied by a team of data scientists, analysts, and engineers, and a clinical team of board-certified obstetricians and gynecologists assisted. They wrote, contrary to what some may claim, the abortion pill is not like Tylenol. We find that is one of the dumbest lines, by the way. Secular pro-life has like pushed on that claim a lot, and so as I think Equal Rights Institute, but I've seen secular pro-life address it a lot. Secular pro-life is a group of like atheists who are pro-life, but very smart women involved in the organization. But there are people who try to say it's safer than Tylenol. It's like, well, no, I mean, if you take the right amount of Tylenol, no. But there are people who might take the wrong amount of Tylenol. If you take the right amount of mifepristone versus like the right amount of Tylenol, yeah, the Tylenol is not more dangerous than the abortion pills. That's nonsense. So there's lots of rebuttals on that. But yes, people do compare and try to say the abortion pill is safer than Tylenol. That's one of the some of the rhetoric, the talking points that they use. We find that out of 1 out of every 10 women who takes the abortion pill will suffer from serious adverse event like hemorrhage or infection soon afterward. I've heard of a lot of women hemorrhaging and just so much blood and all kinds of stuff. A third to a half of these women will then go to the ER or even be hospitalized as a result. Anderson and Hall from Breitbart News. Anderson is a Princeton graduate with a PhD in political science from Notre Dame, and Hall holds a bachelor's and master's degree from Harvard in applied math and statistics. It is unacceptable. We can be confident in our results because we're using insurance claims data from more than 865,000 causes to track the real world experiences of the women who have been harmed by the abortion pill, they said. In comparison, the current FDA-approved drug label for mifepristone is based on the results of 10 clinical trials with a total of 30,966 participants, where less than 0.5% experienced serious adverse events. The current drug label also includes data from as early as 1983, according to the study. By looking through insurance data and classifying cases of medication abortions through various medical coding, researchers identified a total of 865,727 mifepristone abortions for a total of 692,873 women, including 566,446 women who had one such abortion and 126,427 women who had multiple abortions. From those incidents, researchers found a total of 94,605 adverse events related to the medication abortions. And then they have a graph. Let me pull this up real quick. Here, 1 second. Share screen. Here we go. So, got sepsis, 824, which is 10% or 1. Infection, 11,707. Transfusion, 1,257. Hemorrhage is quite high. Hemorrhage is like the highest besides like ER visits. So yeah. So simply stated, mifepristone is used in real world conditions, not safe and effective. Our real world post-market observational study of mifepristone is, to our knowledge, the most comprehensive study of the chemical abortion safety ever conducted in the U.S. The authors allege the findings come after nearly a decade of Democrat presidential administrations deregulating the drug since its initial approval by the Clinton administration's FDA in 2000. Abortion pill approval and deregulation. In medication abortion, mifepristone, also called the brand names Mifeprex, created by Danco Laboration Laboratories. Blocks the action of progesterone, which is the mother's body produces to nourish the pregnancy. When progesterone is blocked, the lining of the mother's uterus deteriorates and blood and nourishment are cut off to the developing baby, who then dies inside the mother's womb. The drug mifepristone, also called Clyotech, then causes contractions and bleeding to expel the baby from the mother's uterus. Mifepristone is a fast-tracked for approval in 2000 during the Clinton administration under the process that required unwanted pregnancies to be classified as a serious or life-threatening illness, and the drug had to be proved more effective than surgical abortion, according to the report. The original FDA approved the drug label for Mifeprex from September of 2000, said the drug should be used through approximately 7 weeks of pregnancy. It also required several modest safeguards for women's health. The study notes safeguards include 3 office visits by the patient, a prescription given only by physicians who have read and understand the prescribing information, administration of the drug in a clinic, medical office, or hospital by under the supervision of a physician able to access the gestational age of an embryo and to diagnose ectopic pregnancies. Man, if you have a pregnancy and it's an ectopic one, I mean, you want to make sure that you're going to the doctor. People are getting these pills or whatever and trying to do all this stuff without actually seeing a doctor at all. And it's just dangerous. The presence of a physician who is able to provide surgical intervention in cases of incomplete abortion or severe bleeding, or plans for such care through others, patient access to medical facilities equipped to provide blood transfusions and resuscitation if necessary. But these safeguards have been chipped away over the past 2 decades since the drug's approval. So yeah, they moved up the time for when you can use it. Now you don't need it only be done by a doctor, by a physician. It's not only done in office, and you don't only have to take it in office. You don't need to have the follow-up, and they're getting rid of required reporting, or have gotten rid of required reporting for adverse events. Yeah. Someone said that's crazy that abortion pill even passed the FDA approval with those numbers. Well, yeah, and then for the special kind of causes too. I wasn't aware that it was fast tracked like that. We're all learning something today. Following the actions from the Obama and Biden administrations, the drug's current risk evaluation of mitigation strategy, which has been in effect since 2023, allows women to obtain mifepristone with one telehealth visit with any approved healthcare provider, not necessarily a physician, allows a woman to self-administer the drugs obtained from a mail-order pharmacy, and allows women to take the drugs up to 10 weeks gestation instead of 7 weeks. The FDA also stopped requiring prescribers to report serious adverse events other than the deaths in 2016. Pro-abortion groups like Planned Parenthood and the American College of Obstetricians and gynecologists have contended scrapping these regulations are necessary in order to increase access to abortions, especially in wake of Supreme Court's Dobbs decisions overturning Roe v. Wade. Roe has created a constitutional right for abortion for 50 years before the High Court released Dobbs' decision in 2022, sending the issue back to the states and their elected representatives. The American Association of Pro-Life, OBGYNs, counters that relaxing regulations around mifepristone puts women at risk. Specifically, they warn a lack of in-person evaluation could put women at risk of having undiagnosed ectopic pregnancies or miscalculating how far along they are. That's true. A couple weeks ago, I mentioned there's this TV show on Max called The Pit, and it's about a hospital in Pittsburgh, and what happens in the like the ER. And I think that's like the whole season is just covering like a day in the ER. And there was a woman who brought her daughter in, and they had missed their appointment earlier. For when they're supposed to come back, they were dealing with another doctor, but the doctor had left. So they came back, and there was this woman doctor, this Black woman doctor, who was like doing the follow-up because she was there for an abortion pill. And so when she looked at the weeks or whatever and measured the baby, she realized there was an issue, and she talked to her like superior, and she's like, the other doctor had this baby measured at such and such, but the baby is clearly this big. So it seems like this doctor probably lied so they could give this girl abortion pills. And so the doctor who was above her was like, okay, just go ahead and go with the original calculation. And she's like, I'm not about to lose my job over this. And he's like, okay, I'll do it. So he went and he lied on the forms or whatever about how big the baby was so they could give the girl the abortion pill. But before they did the abortion, the mother comes barreling in, the real mother, because the girl she was a minor. And she actually came in with her aunt. And her aunt brought her in because she knew that her mom would want her to do it. And so it was a mess, but they ended up convincing the mom to go along with it, and they gave the girl the abortion pills. But I'm like, this is rather bold of them to do a story on this about the doctors blatantly lying about how far along the baby is, so they're able to give the girl abortion pills, because it was past the time where it should have been legal for them to administer the pills. And she could still have an abortion. She just would have had to have a different kind of abortion and not the one with the pill. So I haven't heard a lot of people talk about that, like online and stuff. Maybe I should do just a separate video like covering that. But I'm like, if they're covering it on TV, I like, to me, it's not that far fetched that doctors are actually doing that kind of stuff, especially with so many different activists out there. But there's a lot of dangers that can come with people lying about, how far along the baby is, or people just giving out pills. There was the story not too long ago about it was in New York. There was or no, it wasn't in New York. There was a doctor who prescribed abortion pills, like via, I think, telehealth or something, to a patient who lived in a different state. I can't remember which state it was. It was a national like news story that was going on, and I've reported. I just can't remember what state it was. But the mother was the one who got the pills for her daughter, and her daughter wanted to keep the baby. So the state was going after the mother, was prosecuting the mother, and they are also wanted to prosecute the doctor. So New York is like having the beef with the state and trying to protect the doctor. Like, oh, look at these pro-life laws, and they're coming for women and the doctors. It's like, why? This person wanted to keep her baby, and the mom like coerced her into it. And then I think she had complications and stuff too. So all kind of issues, man, that can arise from not having these checks in place, and a lot of them trying to strip away these different regulations is because they want to make sure that women can get abortions basically as soon as they want them and not be obstructed. And some of that's for money. I think a lot of it's probably for money, and a lot of it is for ideology as well. They're so just dedicated to abortion itself, but there are dangers and risks for it. Like the abortion pill can cause an ectopic pregnancy to burst and put the woman's life in danger. Excuse me. Yet we find that roughly 1 in 300 women who takes the pill in the real world is diagnosed with an ectopic pregnancy after she was already taking the pill. The study authors told Breitbart News the FDA must reinstate stronger safeguards to prevent this from happening. The further along the woman is in her pregnancy, the larger and more developed her unborn child is, and the greater risk of complications from the abortion pill, such as retained fetal parts. They continued by tightening gestational age limits and requiring the doctor to accurately assess gestational age before prescribing the pill. The FDA can reduce the risk of harm to the woman. So yeah, there's definitely risks here for the woman if they it's bad enough obviously what the pill does to the baby, but there are risks to the women. And if you care about women, I don't understand why you wouldn't want this thing regulated some more. If you really cared about protecting women, you would want some more safeguards for women around this particular issue. But they just want those abortions to just be so quick, so fast, etc. So imagine if that happened in real life and something went wrong because they lied. I stopped watching the show. It's very possible that something could have gone wrong. Who knows? And at the end of that episode, after they had prescribed the pills for the young girl to have the abortion, the black woman who wouldn't lie on the paperwork or whatever, she was actually pregnant, and she had like told anyone really, and she had miscarriages in the past, and so she thought she was kind of like approaching far enough along that she wouldn't have an issue. And at the end of the episode, she herself miscarried, and so that's the last episode that I've seen of the show. So I don't know how that if there's more of that storyline or how it's resolved, or if there's any kind of blowback. But I just it was just really sick. Not just that they're willing to lie like that for their ideology, that they were just so opposed to the mother trying to protect her child from doing something terrible like that. The fact that the mother's sister was willing to take her child to do something like that. Like, I know my sisters would never do something like that, but the rage that would come over me if someone had the audacity to do something like that. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so and then to just like have no care about the child itself. Like, no, like it's just as simple as, this is what the mother wants, therefore, that's what we're obligated to do. Just like no, consideration. And I'm sure people are thinking like that. That's, how they rationalize it. That's kind of how they've designed their mind to be. So, I mean, when people say that there should be punishment for the doctors and not for the mothers, there's definitely a lot of ignorance that goes on with the women. But at the end of the day, they do know that they're pregnant and they don't want to have the baby continue growing. They want it to cease the life. So they are aware, and there is some intent, and there is malice there. And people say, well, the doctors need to be charged because they know what they're doing. And as far as their ideology goes, they are meeting the needs of who they see as their patients. So I will say, like, Live Action and other folks will say, well, the women are the victims of the culture. And I'm like, we're all living in the same culture together. These doctors who are willing to lie, put their, we're talking about a fictional show or whatever, but he was willing to put everything on the line for this. And maybe he's just a risk taker anyway, because he didn't seem to care that, wasn't too worried about it, too pressed about it. But they're just adhering to what their patient wants. Dr. Warren Hearn, he just he's a late-term abortionist who just retired. His clinic in Boulder, Colorado clinic, they actually just shut it down. Which pro-life people are glad, because they're surprised though, because they figured he would have just trained someone to take over or something, but they're not taking any more new patients or whatever. He closed down his clinic. And his thought was, all abortions are healthcare because they're all in the mother, so they all involve her health, and if she wants it, then she can get it. That includes like sex selective abortions, and he's done at least 2 of those. If that's what his patient wants, it's what they're gonna get. So they they're twisted too. But good report from Mr. Ryan T. Anderson. Ryan T. Anderson a couple years ago wrote When Harry Became Sally. And I think, or was there another book too that like he did that I think Amazon did not want on their website. I think they maybe eventually put it on there. I'm not sure. Let me see. Amazon ends ban on Ryan. Okay. They did end it, but there was what book was it? I don't know if it was a new book. Yeah. I guess that did come out. Amazon is reversing a ban on a book that is critical of transgender ideology and will now be allowed to work and sold nearly 4 years after it was removed from the platform. In a statement posted Tuesday about Ryan T. Anderson's book, When Harry Became Sally, the online retailer concluded that we erred on the side of being too restrictive last time and decided to return the book to our store. In February 2021, Amazon banned the sale of Anderson's 2018 book because of its critical views on transgenderism and policies. Oh, wow. I thought that was all a little later than 2018. Man, the years are just flying. Anyway, we are over on time, and so I'm gonna table this Garcia story and the David Hogg thing until tomorrow. And so we'll get to tomorrow, unless there is just an absolutely juicy story that just kind of bulldozes everything. But yeah, we'll call it a day. Thank you guys for joining me. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do, please consider leaving a donation on the website, because it does cost a stream from my side, all the good stuff you guys can support. I very much do appreciate you guys. You guys can check out the different merch that's also on the site, and you guys can check out my different books that are available. Like I had Slay Your Fear Out, Overcome a Spirit of Fear. That's a nonfiction faith book. I have my book, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion. That's available. Most of my books, though, are fiction books, and you guys can check that out. If you go to the website, there's a banner on the merchandise page. It'll take you to my book website where you guys can learn more. But if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, there's a link in the description that'll take you to the Amazon page where you guys can learn some more about all that stuff. All right, good to see you guys, and look forward to talking news with you tomorrow. God bless.